Okay, what am I gonna do with all my stuff? Where is my stuff? Oh. Hang on. I think I'm going to I still have quite a bit of thickness. I mean, you know, I don't want to pat myself on the back too much over this because it's still probably almost 3/4 inch thick. It's just under better control. And when the rock is this tough, I want my edges fairly close to the center line, and I want them thicker. And I want to be in close enough to whatever it is. I don't want to be taking shots from, you know, way across town and stuff. I want to be dealing with it from relatively close. And I don't want to be supporting too much underneath when I turn the edges, because I want the edges sort of thick. I don't want all those flakes wrapping. See how thick that is? That's the opposite of what a lot of nappers would be doing right now. You see so many times a napper will have a preform that size and it'll be way tapered. All the edges are tapered down. And don't get me wrong, I do know people who can deal with that very well, but they're beasts. If you want to take a rock like this and thin it a bunch with a whole bunch of really thin flakes taken off of thin edges, then you're just a genius of lithic reduction. And I do know somebody can do it, but it takes serious aggression and it takes unbelievable hand-to-eye coordination, because what you've got to do is just hit the crap out of a real thin edge perfectly time and time and time again. It's supported in such a manner that you get a long thinning. It can be it's a thin flake, but you get long thin flakes even off a thin edge, and that is not easy to do. And so my strategy is totally different. I try and get it where I can take way fewer, much thicker flakes. With or without support underneath, depending upon what I want them to do. If I want them to run low and stay low, then I support it. Like I'll push that under here. I'm actually going to put a little bit of pressure on it and show you what it does. See, it ran in pretty flat. When I'm very opportunistic, I'm choosing. And I got all these opportunities here. Well, see, some of these are almost at the center line. That one is low. It's going into an area that is absolutely non-dangerous, and it's on the end. I try and remember to work the ends and then come in. Thin the ends. Don't thin the middle and then go thin the ends. There's no reason to do that. Trying to do some good with these shots, trying to thin. That's all about support, because that flake was pretty thick and yet it still went over there, and it kind of went around the corner to get over there. It's because of the support and hitting it hard. All right, well, find them flakes towards the end. Hit some of them. There's one I need to just go ahead and hit hard. It's in the middle more. But the platform's too close to the center line. But I'm gonna just put a bunch of pressure underneath it and hit more downward and see what happens. Hit my finger. See how that didn't go very far? It's because it was so close to the center line. The angle was just wrong. That one I had a lot of weird English on it. There's still a little of that crack there. That's that dang crack. Oh well. Okay, this is dangerous because you can get a radial fracture, but I'm going to hit obliquely across that way. So I'm going to put this at an angle and hit like that. And I was too aggressive and hinged it in. So I'm going to lower that. Don't watch this as my only video. Go watch some of my videos on good days. I'm tired and hot. It's not abraded enough, not strong enough. Let's see. The bad thing about what I'm doing here is that if you mess up even once and make way too low a flake and get into where your point is, then there's nothing you can do about it. Because this is way less controlled than pressure work or something, so you don't want to get too aggressive into where your point is, unless you're just that good. And there's at least one person out there that's going, oh, he's talking about me, he's talking about me. Maybe. I wish I didn't have to think so much about flint knapping when I'm doing these videos, and I could just think about what I'm saying, because then I could probably think of all kinds of amusing things to say. Maybe. Probably should have caught me when I was younger. Once upon a time, I was allegedly funny. I guess you can see I'm getting kind of wild here. I don't think I've intruded on my point yet, but I definitely am giving myself some interesting follow-up shots to deal with. I gotta trim off all this stuff. Where's my little solid? What did y'all do with it? I need to switch over to my new one. I've got a new one, my standby, because this one's getting too square on the end, and I'm running out of metal. I need to trim it, but then I'm running out of metal. So I'm trying to get back, get rid of some of this junk. Get back my thick sinuous edge somewhere near where I can do some business with it. But I'm not real sure how long I'm going to be able to continue this, because I feel... How long is it that you're allowed to stay in a sauna? Might end up having to call this my heat stroke point. Boy, this is ugly. This is almost like one of my abo pieces. I need to get some control kind of quick. What do you think? Control? Control be a good thing right here. That flake's low. We're staying out of that area. This is all burred up. Look like it was chewed on by a burr rabbit. Okay. Blender, smoother. Crap, that didn't do anything. It took a tiny little flake, failed off the edge. Wow. Ooh, that was a good blender. I ran all the way there. The best thing y'all can do for yourselves is to learn to read the edges. And what I mean by that is, look at the edge, figure out where you're going to hit, decide why you're going to hit where you're hitting, decide what it's going to do when you hit where you're hitting and why, and then hit, and then look at it and see, did it do what you thought, and if not, why not, and analyze it. And when you do that a million times, you get to where you understand the edges, and those are your key. You're always using the edges to get at the middle. So the reading of it all and accurately guessing what's going to happen. You've probably seen some of the people's videos, I'm never going to do this, where they say what's going to happen and then they draw it on there, and then that split the flake, and that's because of a burr in the end of the tip. The end of the tip is rough, so it split the edge and started a lateral crack going that way, and I'm lucky that it didn't do any worse than it did. Gotta dress your tools some. What was I saying? Something about, oh. I didn't do nothing. That one did. Ran all the way over to there. what I was saying is that some guys, you know, will draw just to prove to you that they know what their flake's going to do. It's just over time that should get greater and greater accuracy and predictability on your part into what's going to happen. Because that's how you can run a whole set of flakes on the thing and then end up having it perfectly smooth and flat or something, is just because not even once was your prediction inaccurate. And people talk about getting stuff really thin. That's what it takes to get stuff really thin. You have to be able to keep being brave and putting force into the piece long after other people would punt. Because see, what happens with a lot of people is they start, as they start getting thin and they start getting closer to being finished with a point, they become progressively more and more concerned about messing it up. And either consciously or subconsciously, they start fudging. And maybe you've had this happen. Have you ever had a big wide preform and you've hit it pretty aggressively and you're kind of proud of yourself and you're like, hey, this thing is pretty dang thin. And I'm gonna end up making a pretty good thin point out of this. And then you bring it on in some and you don't maintain the width to thickness ratio that you had. You start putting a bevel on the shot some and end up with it losing some of it, or you stop thinning. You know, the thing was 50 millimeters wide and 7 millimeters thick, and now it's 30 millimeters wide and it's still 7 millimeters thick. You didn't thin anymore. You kind of punted on that. Well, you know, you just gotta, if you want to learn to thin, just keep on being aggressive and just set everything up more carefully as it gets thin. You know, isolate more and dress your tip more, and but go ahead and hit, you know. Just set things up more carefully. See, that ran over there and over here and flattened and thinned quite a bit. It's under some better control than it was. I don't think I'm doing very well, actually, because I'm sweating and talking, but be back.